Hey guys, happy election day. Hope everyone had a good day today. We saw some good success today, obviously with our swings. I've talked a lot about these, and I haven't really added into them. Remember I said I was just saving a lot more of my dry powder for this spot down here on MU for the gap fill, and then I was going to kind of risk that general area as my spot. But we ended up catching right here, right, for the remainder of the gap and kind of defending what you can, I guess, technically call the double bottom. Remember, this is that big weekly retest too, off of these weekly highs back in like 2021. I think this is 2022. Just an overall big spot. We caught a bit off of that. I talked about this, I believe, on the weekly scan where I expected this to kind of push up into this gap here, right? So we pushed up to 103. 67, that's kind of like the daily gap fill. We rejected it here on November 4th, which was Monday. We had a pretty gross close, and I actually expected us to maybe like trade back down to the gap or maybe look a little bit lower for like a higher low and then a pop reclaim, and then I thought we'd get above like that. So I thought we'd, play a couple more days out. But a really good day, a really strong bar today, or we broke through the gap. We technically filled it. I wouldn't be too surprised to have some kind of pullback and hold of this spot now before continuation higher. But this chart, remember I said this is going to be a broad range. I've said that multiple times, right? Where we have on the weekly chart a big cluster here of weekly lows. We're in this old range as well, where we have these old highs. We're kind of in that discounted zone again. I've mentioned this multiple times. If we take our swing low to our swing high, let's go to the daily so you guys can see it a little bit better. We're technically in discounted zone, right, for our call premiums being right at that 0.5, so half off, if you want to view it that way. So just a general range. I said I would add if we can get back above, and I've said this a lot too, right? Let's talk about this. If we can get back above this spot here, that 108 area, which is that old earnings high, this is this low, this is this lower high, right? We've rejected this a couple times on the weekly as well. If we can get above that, I will add into these contracts, right? I just didn't want to keep blindly adding in until we got to our spot here at target for the full add. I didn't want to be like speculatively adding around this, this broad range here. I wanted to wait for either definitive low or I wanted to wait for a reclaim over 108. So now that we're kind of trending up, I think that if we can get a pop out to above 108.78 and kind of hold this area, I'd happily add some more size onto this one. I'll talk to you guys. I think I'm willing to go to like 150, 200 contracts on this. Maybe like 100 to 150. Plan was like 100, like 30 grand, right? I was gonna put 30 grand into this. I think I can get to that range, or relatively close, once we get above 108.78. Just don't want to be adding in this area, because we didn't know, right? It still technically has room to come down to 96. But overall, chart looks really good. We take a look at crowd, another big day today. Hopefully this doesn't give back its gains, but we've been just kind of flirting against this high here at 299.85. If we zoom out on the weekly, you guys can see that was that old high, which we've been retesting for 4 weeks now, if you will, with multiple wicks underneath, but a candle close above. So volume stayed relatively controlled, right? We haven't really had any spikes with any sell pressure, but also we haven't had any buy pressure, except for one daily bar. And you guys should know what that daily bar was. It was that news day where Delta Airlines was going to be suing, which I believe was here, Friday the 25th, but that got absorbed. And for the most part, we've just been flirting with this spot, guys, and nothing really crazy. So I've just been watching this kind of like on the daily and or weekly. And remember, this trend line's subjective, but this trend line's been holding pretty well on top of it. So overall, right, this thing looks primed to go. EMAs are curled 50, 20, 21, or 50, I'm sorry, 50 SMA, 20 EMA, 9 EMA, all right here, just to add that confluence. So I mean, this thing I think is primed to go. And then last but not least, let's talk about IWM, because this is not necessarily what I wanted to see, but I did kind of expect this potentially to happen. I did mention multiple times that IWM I was taking as kind of like a hedge, right? I have QQQ as well, right? I mean, QQQ obviously got that big gap down, but the reason I was taking short side is that this is the final week of that window of weakness, right, where we could theoretically see that drop with non-supportive flows. We also have the elections coming today, obviously. We have PPI tomorrow, or yeah, I think it's PPI, and then we have FOMC Thursday. So IWM was really just a plan to hold, and I was basically in off of this trend line rejection. We had had that nasty kind of shooting star on Wednesday, and then remember we had this big engulfing bar here that sold us down to this higher low, and then we had a couple days where we rejected off the trend line, and we're green a couple times off of this, right? I wanted to really have this break under 217.37 to get to that 10K position. It clearly broke out today, right? Broke through that trend line, but it's still well within kind of like our resistance here, our broader resistance against this 224.94. You could technically flex it up here, right, and kind of go against the seller's ask at 225. But I did say that this is more of a time-based thing. I'm going to hold this entire week, which might be a little bit weird. I mean, I'm down a little bit more than I thought. I'm down 46% on this. So dollar-wise, I'm down $2,700. So not the prettiest thing, but I'm going to hold this the whole week, right? And the whole point of me taking this, as I said, was if the market does sell, this name will easily go 130, 140%. And if we can get the move down to target here around 211.64 to 212, this will net me about like 6 to like I would say 10 grand. So that's kind of the goal there. And then what I would do is roll those profits into MU, into crowd, whatever dip that ends up happening, because I assume the whole market will kind of sell down. And that's really it, right? I mean, if I end up losing on IWM end of the week, it's totally fine. I'm pretty sure that this will be mitigated by the crowd position. I mean, this is going to rally $43, $44, so that will go well above 150, 200%. MU will have a little bit longer to play out, but just kind of this area here, I mean, this still has $25 to go. That'll yield about 150, 200%. And if I lose on IWM, right, it's not nearly as much size as the other ones, and this will only be like a 55, 60% loss. So if I end up cutting this by the end of the week and it doesn't come down, I know that sounds bad, but in theory, right? I mean, 250% plays, 160% loss, those will equal out just about holding the target. And I can't bitch out and sell my other ones too quickly, right? That's how I can mess this up. And even then, I can even add on, clear reclaims of levels. MU is probably the most noticeable one. I don't think crowd has one. But that's kind of the game plan. Even with today, I was down $2,700 or whatever I just said on IWM. But I'm still up on the day about $3,300 because of MU and crowd. So it will work out. Just got to make sure I hold these to target and I close IWM if it kind of starts breaking out a little bit more. I can't let it get to like that, like above 60% spot. But yeah, plan is to just hold these into the end of the week, just to see what ends up happening with FOMC and the remainder of the volatility that we have this week. And obviously this is the final week of that window. And if nothing happens, right, just kind of close, and I'm just going to focus on the long side setups. One thing I took today as well was FSLR. Pretty simple setup, right, where we ended up having this sell-off underneath this swing low here. You guys can see pretty nasty sell-off, but if we take a look at the weekly, kind of just a footprint candle, guys, right? Earnings footprint candle that swept underneath the low here. You can see footprint with our high volume bullish bar, right? So we can take this as a campaign ending or a new one beginning, however you want to view that. So we want to enter on a trend, right? So we ended up kind of popping out. We tested the top of the gap here at 220 and had a pretty bearish bar, honestly. The shooting star, so you'd expect a move back down, which we ended up getting. We got kind of a pullback, and we pulled back right into the gap, and kind of this old area of potential like resistance, like this was our progression gap back here, as you guys can see, right? Oh, let's pull this down. And you can see there was a series of multiple daily highs here and into our gap. So as it pulled down into the gap, I took the shot, added into, I don't remember the date. I think they were the 11:07 there this week. 11:08, 232.5. I wanted to get the 225s, which would just be the daily gap fill here. A little bit expensive. Those were like the $700, $800 per contract. I didn't want to take that. If I took like multiple, I mean, I don't want to take a $2,000, $3,000 loss. So I just took one contract of the 232.5. Entry was like 5.8, and they're currently, I think they're at like 7.25. I think the ask is at 7.9. So they're about 30%. So really good gain here. Still a little bit more room to go if we can press up. I mean, we have another $8 or so to get to the target. These should go, I don't know, 60 to 70%, and be a nice little gain here to just kind of stat pad. But this was another one that I alerted, and that's kind of it, guys. Boeing sold off, so unfortunately this didn't do as well as I would have liked. I wanted to see it reclaim 159 to 70, and I would have entered. Didn't happen. Roku could be good entry, right? We ended up breaking above the gap here. If we can kind of pull back as I have laid out and drawn up right here, if we can pull back right here and hold 68.75, whether that be a series of daily bars that kind of hold against this, or if we get a lower time frame, and I haven't even checked this, so this might be good to do. Doesn't look ready yet, but we want to see some kind of like flag, right? Some kind of flag that kind of goes down like that. Just holds very nicely with divergent volume. Roku could be a good trade to get back to 76, and then maybe we get path of least resistance breakout through this this gap here, and we start to trade to 91. But this is going to be a big focus for me. That's kind of really it, guys. I mean, Tesla kind of had a nice move out above this gap here. I should have added into this one. Like I said, I'm hesitant on adding any new positions with size in this window, right? I just kind of want this week to pass, which is why I've been so, I don't want to say lackadaisical, but like just I haven't had my foot on the gas at all. I haven't been adding into anything. I obviously took IWM just to kind of hedge against my longer dated stuff, but other than that, I'm kind of just on chill mode until FOMC. But that's really it, guys. Nothing really crazy. Intel did good today. That was another good thing. I still have those June contracts. I know the earnings was a disappointment, but this thing still held, and it's still holding really nicely. I have shares and contracts, so really just need this to pop above 24.59, and this thing should be good to go. And I would take a little bit more adds into those. But that's it, guys. Hopefully this kind of gives us some guidance, helps us out a little bit. I know IWM's kind of shitty right now. It sucks, but you know, this is more of a time thing in my opinion. And like I said, I've only been talking about BA, or not BA, MU and crowd for so long, and I've told you guys that this is my main thing. IWM I was just taking to hedge against that, and it's not like a perfect hedge, right? I mean, I'm well situated into my calls, and I'll make more money on the call side. This was just a nice little thing that if I could get the drawdown on this, obviously QQQ as well, I have to type that in. If we could get the pullback on this and sell down to like that 471 and or on IWM 212, that'd be some nice cash to pocket and then roll into the longer dated stuff again. So let's see what ends up happening. I mean, we still have 2 more days until FOMC. There is that potential. I don't know, man. There could be potential that we pause. I don't think we hike. I think the probability right now is another cut at like a 25%. Probability. One thing I want to pull onto the screen here, just I just like to pull these up when they pull through. But 23 prints at 569.6 on this. So we usually see this going into these major catalysts. So if we take a look at SPY, 569.6 would be essentially this either fills the gap and sells, or tomorrow it kind of opens in this, like, because you got to think, right? This is the gap from here to here. Just draw this out really quickly. I'm just going to draw the daily gap. So right here, right, this theoretically, if this sells, could do something like this, where it pushes down, retests, and then this would be looking for right around here, right? This would be the range, so right around the close or today's open. That would be a pretty crazy move, right? So if that ends up happening, I don't see how this just doesn't sell through 568 and down into 565, and then likely bounce, and then maybe another push through 561. But yeah, I'm just staying a little hesitant because we did see those come through today. So clearly big money is now bidding the market down. Not as big on QQQ, but still something to just kind of watch out for. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm doing. Just kind of see how the next 2 days go. Just hold my longs, hold my short, and give IWM the weekly close. And that's all, guys. Appreciate it.